This conference will now be recorded.
For some reason, it's,
Good, I didn't like my hair today.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
So, but it's made that one.
I remember,
And I think,
yeah.
caller 2 is, Sam, is that you?
Probably.
Sam, are you on?
Maybe it's muted.
If, he should still be able to hear us. Sam, if you're on the call, you're muted. It's, and I don't see if it's identified as you or someone else.
There goes his skills.
Okay, well, while Sam finishes that, if you would like, we can just go ahead and acknowledge his presence, allow him to participate, and then when he gets in, then we'll,
Yeah, if you, and I think we begin the meeting, as usual, make a motion to allow full participation, view, et cetera.
Yes.
For the record.
let's call the meeting to order first.
Meeting called to order the continuation meeting of the, what was it, November 19th.
Ready for a roll call?
Yeah, roll call, and are we willing to accept Sam if he calls in? It looks like he's trying to call in to be part of this meeting.
And that might be him, but if we could just do the roll call
Yeah,
and
okay.
then you make the motion. So, Mr. LaShure. Ms. Howley.
Here.
Mr. Jensen.
Here.
Ms. O'Connor.
Here,
And Mr. Kitch.
Here.
We have a quorum, and I'll reflect that Mr. LaShure as being here if whoever is I call it to identifies.
I make a motion to accept Sam to be president of the meeting.
Okay,
I second that.
yeah, you can.
Is he on the screen?
He's not as straight, it's just it's somebody that's called in and it just says caller 2. But, and I don't see, there's Mr. Wayne French, Marcy,
Okay.
and then Chris Dudak from our office.
You want me to call him?
No,
I
I
texted
texted him, he just
Oh, all
said
right.
yes, he can hear us.
Oh,
He needs to unmute his.
yeah, we need to tell
Get a newer phone.
him.
If he, Sam, if you can hear us, if you can unmute your mic.
Put down the microphone.
Chris, can you try and
Put down the
unmute him?
can.
And did you identify him as, instead of caller 2, edit it and make it Sam?
Didn't he go?
He probably didn't come to see us.
He went away or something.
I heard he was driving somewhere, coming back at the end of the evening.
Chris, can you hear us? Let me make sure my
Yeah.
mics are
Yeah, these, we heard these.
echo.
Yeah, but not since that.
And, yeah, okay. All right, Chris, can you hear us now? Make sure those are on. Sorry about that.
Got to call him on my phone?
And put him on speaker.
Well, just to see if he,
Yeah, see if he can hear us.
yeah.
Oh, he said he could.
Yeah, but it,
No,
I
that's
thought maybe
Chris.
it cut
Oh,
off.
Chris.
So we don't know if he can hear us. Hello?
Yeah, try calling the office.
Link.
Oh, says link.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both on. Mics are on.
And these are wireless.
Yes.
Chris, I know the camera is having problems. Somehow it's not coming through the internet. Okay, I'll get a hold of, I'll text Chris and.
Oh, you got it?
Sam, can you hear
Oh, I
us?
just heard something real low out of this one.
Do you have the mute button off?
No, I just heard something. It's very,
Okay. All right, we just want to make sure you could hear us.
That's up all the way.
Okay.
That's up all the way.
He says he can hear us fine. He just can't talk to us.
right.
He
Okay.
hears us.
But neither can Chris at the office. please.
All right, well, neither can Chris at the office, so we're just trying to figure it out. All right, thanks.
He can hear us. I'm going to,
Okay, all right, thanks.
where everyone, oh, now I don't see him. All right. And he's on his phone. Unfortunately, I seem to be technically challenged, but I don't see him here.
Well, like she said, like, is your phone charged up or does somebody want to just use their phone?
Phone's charged.
Why don't you call him and he can
Put it
talk
on
to us on
speaker.
that. This won't take that long.
No,
Yeah, just put it on speaker.
I don't have his number. Can
I can give it.
give me?
My granddaughter. She got scared and took off.
Oh, here's somebody is waiting for name.
She
I bet that's him.
He's prancing because he wants to go. I didn't tell her yet.
What's that, white sand?
That's footing.
Oh, I thought it was
Yes.
No,
snow.
that's even more.
See his ears, he's listening to her. She-
You want to call him?
Yeah,
410-726-1096. And that way he can hear you guys.
yeah.
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, we can. There he goes.
Is that Sam?
That you,
That's
Sam?
me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Sam.
All
Okay.
right.
And you must be caller 3. I'm going to you and put you in as caller 3.
My granddaughter. on my arms.
You keeping up with your writing?
Okay.
Did he tell you? He said he brought.
All right. Well,
What's his
caller 3 is Sam. So Sam is here and we have a motion and that's been seconded to allow Mr. LaShure to participate by phone. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, sorry about the delay, but we're set and ready to go. This is a continuation meeting and there are 3 items on the agenda from last meeting. And 2 were announced. The third is just ratification of a reorganization that the board had conducted at the meeting last meeting. Okay. So
First is the chair rotation discussion.
that would be the resolution
Correct.
that is included in your packet. And that has the change in the chair and the vice chair, chair being Ms. O'Connell and the vice chair being Ms. Holloway, and everyone else would remain the same, except that Mr. Kish would move into an assistant secretary position.
I think it was in the book.
So, and I take it with this came in with the, under a discussion item at the last meeting as
Yes.
far as rotation. So in a year, there would be another, but you'd have to have it then anyhow,
Mhm.
because there'll be an election.
Right.
So there's a resolution 2022-02 that reorganizes the board as reflected in the resolution that you have before you. And I need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so Mr. LaSure made the motion?
Yes, second by Ray.
Okay.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, next item then would be item 10G from the November 19th meeting, and that's the ERC request for a transfer from one parcel. It's a common ownership, and I think Mr. Cruz should introduce and discuss this.
And before, and as part of the discussion, if we could, I've noticed that in the agenda packet, if you all could turn in your agenda packet to Cal afterwards, and Cal, if you could redact online the social security numbers of McNamee's, it's still in the packet.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
you mean the recent package?
It's on page 22 of the
No, it's in the
agenda
booklet,
packet.
I think.
Yes, so if you could take that sheet out and hand that back to
Yeah.
Cal at the end. so
Yeah, we don't need that.
Correct, and then I've redacted it as far as anything that I found. And Cal, the version that's viewable by the public. Thank you.
Or should we give them to you?
Yeah, I'll take them all.
Give me a-
Thank you. And in the meeting, I guess, too, before we have our discussion, yesterday I was at the County Planning Commission from 9 a.m. to about 3:30 p.m. And then I had to go to another district meeting. I got home around 8 o'clock last night. Another fun day in Paradise. So this morning I was checking my emails, and I checked my junk emails, and I saw an email from Marcine McNamee that came in yesterday at 9:06 a.m. Somehow it landed in my junk email. And so this just came in and I forwarded, I think Cal may have been copied on it, I'm not sure, but just on the safe side.
I didn't see it.
I sent it to Cal and Dave this morning. So
I did send it to you this morning.
Correct, and so this was just received. I only had a chance to scan it as far as what's being requested, and there are some changes and read, and it's been notarized. So to the extent that the form, when we get into the discussion, to the extent that the form of the application was at issue, the form has now been notarized and witnessed. Well, it's been notarized. And it still has some issues, but before we even get to that, in your agenda packet, there are two memos, and one, I think the more pertinent memo is the one that's labeled draft. I think it's really final. It says draft. It begins at page 35. This is a memorandum that Dave prepared and I reviewed with regards to the application as it existed as of that date, December 1st. And so the question comes, first of all, does this board want to, again, continue this table this to the next board meeting, since we just received this information yesterday morning, the updated materials? And in the application, in the memorandum, we go through the analysis, and quoting from the rules, it cites section 4.34, and the important consideration is its purpose. The purpose of this rule is to provide a process for the district to consider the transfer of utility capacity, not operations and maintenance, utility capacity.
Right.
To properties or between properties. And the request is for a transfer between parcel under common ownership, Tonka Homes LLC. And then the procedure to transfer the ERCs between parcels under common ownership. Dave's memo outlines that excerpt from it. David, correct me if I'm wrong, any place along the way if I make a mistake or assert something that you said and you didn't. Me too. Dave could about that. Yeah, and Cal also. And it outlines on the second page of the memo, which is page 36, of the agenda packet, the requirements. And the pertinent part to note at the top of page 37, which is page 3 of the memo, is there are no provisions for a property owner to transfer O&M ERCs between properties. So when you get to later on, that's not a consideration. We don't believe the board can take that action. The assignment of the O&M ERCs has been based on current and future potential use of the property. And while the district's currently developing revisions to the rule, and the district has hired Russ Wire to evaluate the O&M assessment methodology, right now, there's no ability to assign, in my opinion, O&M ERCs for any parcels. Utility ERCs is a different story. They can be transferred. And the board can review those and say yay, nay to the request. We still don't, going back to the comments, my comments previously, and they still stand, there's no attorney's affidavit has been provided. And the email from, they say it's coming from Marcine, which I think it's Steve's wife, she also has an interest in the property, apparently in Watonka. They indicate that they cannot find an attorney, and they asked if I'm able to, and I wrote back and saying, no, I cannot, and I will not, I do represent them in this matter. So that's still an item that's out there and it's not been submitted. So there's no attorney's affidavit. And the attorney's affidavit is important because, as outlined in the rule, it says the attorney relying upon a third-party affidavit, the attorney will review title to make sure, otherwise they're not going to make the representation. The identity of the record title holder of the parcel from which the ERCs are to be transferred. So we're relying upon an affidavit from somebody as opposed to just the representation from the applicant. And then the identity of any other entity or person that has any interest in the property. And so that's also important. Now, in the revised packet that's submitted, it's in the agenda book, there's a letter from, in the revised materials that I received yesterday, there's a letter from Goose River Bank, who in doing separate search on the record, is the mortgage holder. It says Goose River Bank is the mortgage holder for 289 Keys, back to A and B. And it says, we are aware of it with the switching of the ERCs from track A to track B, and they give the folio numbers. So to that extent, at least it addresses that issue, but we don't have the attorney's affidavit. And so it's up to the board to say they want to have it, or they want to waive it. But the difficulty is, in my opinion, if the board waives the requirement, the next person comes along and wants to waive the same requirement, recognizing each case is evaluated on its own merits, but there have to be a similar basis for determination as to why you're going to waive it for one and not waive it for another. Or if you waive it for one, you have to keep waiving it for others. Because the only asserted basis is for not being able to find an attorney, or they don't know the answer. It says, we have been working relentlessly, and this is from the email from Marcine McNamee from yesterday morning. We have been working relentlessly, calling several attorneys that either don't know what you are looking for or refer us to someone else, who, whether due to the holidays or timetable, never return phone calls or don't have time to look at this. With all due respect to that, I think the rule is pretty clear as to what the attorney's affidavit would provide. And whether or not the attorneys understand that, I can't speak for them. Conversations that have been held. So that's one of the questions the board needs to decide whether or not they're going to say, we need to abide by the rules, we need to have this before we make a decision. And the other
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, the other consideration is, like I said, in my opinion, the board cannot approve any transfer going on ERCs.
And that's what I was going to mention. The O&M ERCs was something that was done in 90 years, whatever, and they were assigned, and it was based more on debt for the infrastructure in the community. And that's just been maintained ever since. There's been no individual analysis, nothing. Like I've said several times, that individual data on particular parcels was never created, and it's never been available. That's why I recommended that you go with an assessment methodology. Now you've got something in place. Once that's in place, then we can look at what is needed on that property. And if he's got too many, Administratively, we can make that change. You don't have to be involved in that. But we have nothing to go by at this point in time to be able to determine what the O&M obligations of any property is. It's always been one ERC for the maximum within that classification. Any residential, be it condo or hotel room, was one ERC for O&M. For the boat docks, the maximum one was 0.4. So they all get 0.4 because the benefit doesn't change. It's roads, it's stormwater. it's-
Again, in my opinion, the rule doesn't allow it. I think that's sort of the bottom line from my perspective. I don't think the board has the authority. In my opinion, the board does not have the authority to transfer O&M ERCs. Even more interesting, just reading the item from yesterday, and it has initials next to it. On the application, the prior application was a request to transfer 6 O&M ERCs
Right.
from track A to track B. Now it's to transfer 4 from track A to track B and leave 2 O&M ERCs on track A. So again, that's even changed.
Mhm.
But in my opinion, that should be off the table for the authority to do that. So that, one other aspect is.
Let me ask you this, with what I just said, that once the board approves an assessment methodology, that becomes an administrative function by the manager that.
Depending upon what the board adopts. I wouldn't, it all depends on what the board adopts as far as an assessment methodology and a true up or allocation, because you have to follow the form. So it all depends on what is in there when the board finally adopts the O&M assessment methodology, the new one. But one other aspect, in just rereading the memo, is the bank mortgage holder has acknowledged its interest, but the rules also require that all parties in interest have to execute the request to transfer. And they said we are aware of it, they've not executed the request to transfer. So again, there are a number of deficiencies, and some could say they're technical, some are substantive. I'd submit that the attorney's affidavit is substantive, but the board has the ability to waive it. The bank acknowledges they're aware of it, they've not signed the transfer, but they said they don't have any problem with it. So that might be okay. But
The board could approve the transfer contingent upon you being satisfied on what you need. Is that correct? Or?
I don't like. I'm satisfied with what I need is different than what is in the application packet. I mean, I'm just saying that if the mortgage holder signs a request to transfer with the formalities of a deed, and if we get 2 witnesses on this application in addition to the notary, then to sign with the formalities of a deed, I still think you need an attorney's affidavit. The board can waive that, but I think the board needs to outline exactly what would be acceptable to the board today. This code, and if the board says we approve it subject to the lender signing the application, request to transfer also with the formality of a deed, and the board can say we waive the attorney's affidavit, that's the board's decision. Then the board can say, yes, we agree to transfer of the utility ERCs, but deny the transfer of any O&M ERCs because it's not allowed. Those are the options the board can take.
I have one question. If ERCs can be transferred, because they have in the past, it's like Catherine.
Utility ERCs.
Yeah, utility, but I don't know if Catherine's here. But I think her condo did sell one, like through the condo, let's say.
Right. Well, they rest with the property. So if you sell the property, those ERCs go with it.
But not sold separately.
Right. This is a request where you've got common ownership, and he just wants to take some of his ERCs and put it on another parcel that he owns.
Utility ERCs.
Utility.
But again, from my opinion is the board doesn't have the ability to do the O&M, so I think just the focus is just on utility ERCs.
Yeah, I agree, the O&Ms. But on the utility side, what do I have here? When you said anybody who has an interest in the property or new owner, does that include? I mean, I feel if the property let's say it might be in the process of being sold, that's not our business.
Right.
Our business is who the owner is now.
Right.
Owner and also any mortgage holder, because they have an interest in the property, they have an equitable interest by virtue.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Russ was going to say something.
This affidavit that you want, attorney affidavit, why?
The rules call for it.
Okay, but
And again,
what's the absolute purpose of it?
to make sure that the person who's making the application isn't, we have representation from
Yeah.
somebody under oath, other than the applicant, that person who's making the application has a requisite interest in the property, and that all parties that have interest are disclosed, including the mortgage holder.
Okay, so all parties involved is one party.
Well, we don't
You
have,
don't know that.
we don't have the third party saying that. We have the applicant saying that, but it's not, and we have, but the attorney's affidavit is to get an attorney.
So because an attorney says it, then it's so. Whereas an applicant says it, then it isn't so.
The rule, all I'm saying is the rules, if the rules didn't have that, then it's one.
Okay. So it's just
rules-
because it's in the rules.
That's correct. In specific, I think it says as an inducement to the district. So the
Okay,
district
but-
is relying upon that, because the district can then
But
take
by-
action.
By doing this, your concern before was who was going to pay for all this. This keeps all the revenue coming in. Nothing changes if we move this. Nothing changes. Okay, the O&M part, I understand that. That makes sense to me. That becomes, so when you do get a plan for the property, you will assign the correct O&Ms, whether it be more or less. Right?
Right.
We don't have to do anything with that.
Right.
Okay, now I got it.
The board will have to adopt that.
Yeah.
Right, and approve that new.
But if adopted,
But I got a question for you. We've already had, you sent these out, these utility ERCs from 2021 and 2020.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's 4 changes on here. I don't remember seeing anything from anybody about utility changes on these. So you're talking, were there affidavits from lawyers for all these changes?
This is just.
No, I'm talking about
Right, I don't know, I have to look at the record of proceedings on that. Well, this is
Well, I would
different than most others. If there's a sale, then that might have to be accepted. I don't know. I assume that all of them have been submitted to the Beaumont test for review.
whatever the rules were. that-
Yeah, I did see some stuff in the files about some having been transferred and so forth.
Yeah.
So it seems like it has been.
Mhm.
But I
I
think
can't-
what Mr. Fish is saying, the rules require the board approves the transfer.
And yeah, I don't remember ever doing any transfers. These are utility
I
transfers.
don't think any transfers have happened.
Yeah, I got
since
them
I've
right
been
here.
on
I
the
have
board.
it. You
Do you have
guys sent
dates
these
do you
out.
have dates of transfers?
No, there's no dates.
No, it's
This
just
is
the
on-
change.
this is
So-
2020,
Oh,
went
yeah.
from 29.16 to 33. I never had anything to do with
There's
that.
a particular parcel where
It's
it's increased.
the retreat, yes. And then here's another one, Southwest Commercial Marina. It went from 6.1 to 5.5. And there's another one here.
Well,
Evening
that, you
Star-
guys changed the
The marina,
marinas.
we all worked on
Okay,
that.
Evening
change that.
Star K went from 38 to 36.5.
Wasn't that a,
I have to look at the minutes on that. I don't know. I don't know if the board didn't do it.
My point is, I want to do the affidavit, all right,
Mhm.
because I don't see where this person would have any, would not be legit. You know what I mean? We've been dealing with this for months, right? So if we waive it, it all goes there. Whatever the future plans are, we still have the revenue. And we're gonna have the O&Ms cleared up by this Russell, whoever the heck he is, that's gonna clear up that policy. So I'm not concerned about that. But I am concerned about if we do something that doesn't allow this to go through. Okay, it's just, I think it's for the best interest in the whole community that we waive that one part of it, the lawyer affidavit. If everything else is
Well, no, the mortgage holder would need to sign the application
fine,
also.
okay,
Uh,
I'm sure that can be,
With the notary and witnesses.
okay, so that's it.
But-
And the O&M.
And again, and there need to be 2 witnesses on this document.
So, but
But that can be done.
That's an easy fix.
Yes, can we sign this again, clean it all up?
Okay, I mean, we're holding things up because,
Are we holding it up, Russ? Or
No.
it's in writing what we
no,
request?
no, I'm not just talking about that. But there's like the O&Ms we have to get corrected because they haven't been right for 30 years, okay? Which is what I wanted in writing before. We can't produce any of this stuff because it's old. Well, somebody, wasn't doing their job. We need to make these things right. I'm not trying to point fingers or anything.
But we are doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we can't wait. Originally, there was a thing that said we should wait and not okay this until we get everything cleaned up.
The O&M.
The O&Ms.
Just the O&M?
Yeah, that's all.
Utility's easy.
Yeah, I'm okay with the O&M.
Yeah,
All
just
right,
the
I mean-
O&Ms. But because the rule was accepted by the board at that time, until they're changed, we need to follow those rules. Otherwise, like, we can dig into what you're saying, and if we find that the board overrode something, it's like he says, if you do it, it makes you
Just set a
accountable
precedent.
for the future.
Right.
Well,
So,
but for the future, we're gonna write new rules. So they won't be able to waive the affidavit if there is an affidavit needed.
I
See,
don't
'cause
believe
when-
in the future, I believe in what's in front of me. And until those
Well,
revised rules are here.
But you're right. Okay, so yeah, but you think somebody's gonna come between now and when we're rewriting the rules, which we're doing presently, right?
Right.
Okay, so you think this is gonna come up again in the next couple months?
I have seen changes happen overnight in my years, so.
Okay, well,
It can happen.
see,
It
because
isn't
I
that it
think
can't.
there should be an application. We don't even have an application for this transfer, whether it be between common ownership or two separate owners. We should have something like that. And myself and I want to get as much, unfortunately, for legal things. All this legalese stuff drives me crazy. I want stuff that's clear, precise, that, somebody with a ninth grade education is going to be able to read and understand without a lawyer getting involved with it. So an application, it may not be this.
Yeah.
But, if all we're looking for is validation, everybody knows this guy. Everybody knows that what he's doing is on the up and up. What could possibly be the downside of,
When you say everybody knows him, do we all know him? I can't say
well, you
I
talk to
know
him.
him. I talk to him. Doesn't mean I
What's
know
the
him.
downside of letting
That's
us
what
go?
we're paying a lawyer for, people.
What's
That's
the
what we're paying Tony for.
Okay, but you're not answering the question, Sam. What's the downside of doing the transfer?
I look at it this way. The rule is there. We have our attorney to represent us. And I don't want to deviate from what's there and voted on and make an arbitrary change just for this transaction. That makes me very nervous.
Okay, well, what makes me nervous is that we've had no policy in place for vacant land. Okay, there's been no policy in
Well, it
place.
doesn't matter what it's vacant or built on. It's land.
Yeah, it does. We have formulas for all our hotels, seats, everything. We don't have any formulas for vacant land. And that opens us up to litigation, okay? And that can go back in time.
Well, let me ask you this. If I came in here and I built, let's say, a restaurant over there, and then those plans go to the engineer, don't they? And you would recommend what is needed to do that.
We would make a determination of what is needed and what the currently assigned ERCs are.
Right.
Now, there's a step before that, that if somebody wants to build a hotel
Mhm.
or a restaurant, whatever, they're going to apply for a building
From
permit
the county.
through the county. And then the county's going to
Comes to us.
contact us, and they're gonna say, is their utilities available?
Right.
Availability of utilities is based on the number of ERC.
Oh, utility ERC.
Utilities.
Yeah, utility. We're only talking about utilities.
So, and then that will go to David. He will analyze how many they need, and if they don't have enough, then we reject it.
Now,
We
it's
send
my
back that it is not
understanding-
available.
The original developer here basically said A, B, and C can go there, and the county zoned it that way, and that's why these were placed on the property. Is that,
Pretty much, but there is a little difference. You had the plant, Whole Montez determined what was the capabilities, and they broke it down to ERCs and how many ERCs that plant could support.
Right.
So, and there's 1,032. Then the developer separated and appropriated where he needed ERCs.
Based on cost of operation.
No, that's the number of ERCs isn't the cost. The number of ERCs is the availability, right, the capacity. And then you, every year, determine how much you have to charge per ERC to support your budget.
and that's the bottom line, to support the budget.
But there's no change.
What do you mean?
ERC total is the same.
Yes, it doesn't change.
Right. So if we move it, what's the downside?
I'd like to say something.
There's no downside.
On Steve's behalf, and there's two sides. On Steve's behalf, and on the face of this, I sat there and I said, wow, this is gonna be 10 minutes. Because he owns both parcels. All we're concerned about is this morning, as you know, this morning, who owns both parcels? I'm assuming he does. So if Tonka owns them or he owns them, all he wants to do is shift ERCs from parcel A, which is legitimate, to parcel B, which is legitimate. And he owns them. On the face of it, I see nothing wrong with that. The problem we run into amazes me, and it's that for 30 years, previous boards have run, not even by the seat of their pants, but blindfolded and deaf, dumb besides. And we inherited this mess. And no one ever came up with this, ever. In all the horror shows that have happened, in $3.2 million worth of losses from other developers, we have never learned the lesson until now. And the reason why is it's an individual. And he's bringing a lot of things to light that we really do need to look at. Number one, he's right. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. And we're paying to have a history done. But we have an engineer that just retired that's been with it, CID, since day one, 30 years. But nobody knows what the hell's going on. He asked a good question. And I don't know the answer. On lot 13, at what point did the ERCs that Sam Marsh transferred to Bruce Holichek, and we inherited as the CID, when Bruce Holichek pre-foreclosed to us, when we pre-foreclosed to him, where'd those ERCs go and why? Why didn't they ride with that property, which would have seemingly been much simpler and more parity? So that's a mess. And I understand the confusion. But with this, it's seemingly easy. He's not wrong saying, where's the beef? Where are the documents? Okay, and he and I are not getting along. But out of fairness, he's right. Where the hell, just show me in writing, where the hell does it say that? And it's not you. We can't do it. As a board, we inherited a Pandora's box that's full of spiders. We can't do it. And it's not on you.
Yeah, but that's the O&M.
I understand, but now let me say one more thing.
Okay. Just for clarification. The allocation appears to have been based upon the 1990 original allocation of ERCs.
Which was the first one.
And that has not changed. So
Right.
there is something of record as to how that arrived at the original, right, wrong, or different today. And that's why the board's going through that process. So everybody says we don't know how we got to it. That happened back in 1990. We do know how it got there. Whether we agree with that or agree to disagree, that's another story.
But hold that thought. I asked at a previous meeting, and this isn't about Steve or anybody else, as a board member, I asked, do the O&Ms, I don't think any of us knew there were O&Ms. I don't think, we thought ERCs were ERCs. But I asked if the O&Ms transfer, if they travel with the utilities? The answer was no. Well, how the hell can that be? How can that be? Well, we said no to him. If it were me and I were him, is how I try to look at things. How the hell can the O&Ms not travel with the utilities? And that was confusing him.
I think we got apples and oranges.
Those are different concepts because the
Right.
utility ERCs are based upon capacity.
Right.
Utilization of a particular infrastructure. The O&M ERCs are based upon the allocation for drainage, roads, landscaping, and those items.
Well, why don't they travel proportionally?
Well, they're not, they're apples and oranges,
Right.
arguably.
But they still come down to ownership.
No, it comes down to benefit as far as the assessments for the O&M, and the benefit as to the ERCs is predicated upon usage and demand on the system. They're getting a different types of measurement. I think Russ has done that, and maybe, I don't know if he'll do that here, where he takes and creates different formulas based upon the type of infrastructure that's at issue for O&M. Where some communities will say, we do one ERC, each single family home for roads, stormwater, transportation, landscaping, parks and rec. But then Russ also has created a new formula for another district, says, as to roads, everybody has a different impact, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house. So we don't have one just ERC. So I mean, you may have a blend. So that's why they're different.
Right. And also, every year, the board approves a budget. That budget separates O&M and utility.
Right. Which brings me to the last point. Because this is nuts. We hired an expert, Russ, not this Russ. We hired an expert to give us the current ERC methodology, but only for O&M. Why not for both?
Number one, you didn't ask for it.
But we need to.
Well, but why?
Well,
It
why?
works.
It's not working.
Well, we have
Why doesn't it work?
we have everything except the vacant land.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean,
So we need
to bring us up to speed, why not get this out of the way? We wasted months on this thing.
Well, I agree with Cal, because the utility, my experience has been with utilities, the demand is predicated upon, I'm a single family user, I use, the standard say is 250 gallons per day for a single family household.
That number, yeah.
And if I'm a multifamily unit, I may use 150 gallons per day. So that's why you may have a different allocation. I think, is that correct? So that's different than the O&M for the other infrastructure I'll call it. There are different allocations of impacts on the system for different types of infrastructure.
Okay.
But I agree with him. We need, if that's the case, like that land that we're trying to sell, in order to sell it and for it to make any sense, you said a long time ago, typically one ERC per acre.
That was O&M.
Oh, that was,
Yes.
oh, that wasn't utility, that was just O&M?
See, and there's a confusion.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing.
No.
because like when we
It
go,
would be a higher number if you looked at raw land. If you were putting single family in there, of course, it may be like a 3 or 4 ERCs per acre.
So moving forward, just because, so I need to understand this. I do. I think this is a simple thing. Moving forward, I understand that now O&M means operation and maintenance.
Yes.
That comes subsequently per acre, evidently, to the utility hookups, which is based on capacity and ability. I get all that.
No. O&M is for irrigation, for stormwater, for
Infrastructure.
lighting, those types of infrastructure.
Okay.
Needle spraying.
Okay. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Can McNamee sell parcel B without transferring to the new owner, O&M, and yes, and the utility?
What do you mean transferring to the?
They go with it.
No, the O&M is on the land.
Yeah, it's on the land.
So it stays with it, no matter what.
Yeah, there's no mechanism now, and I would submit that it's not possible. What's the benefit to the parcels and the infrastructure that's in place?
Okay.
And in order to change that assessment levy on that property and the amount of allocated ERUs, ERCs, whatever you want to call it, you have to do an analysis saying, does that property benefit or not benefit from the infrastructure, the roads, the drainage, and everything else? And that's, in my opinion, the only way you can change that. And then that's part of what Russ is going through the process of analyzing what you currently have, what he would recommend you change or not change, and then whether or not there's a mechanism for any adjustments in the assessments later on. And typically, the assessments are only adjusted on an annual basis when you do your budget. Because then what happens is if you change the number of assessments levied on parcel A, I'm not talking this parcel A, then you lower it, and then you have a budgetary number, raise the dollar amount for everybody else's assessments out. So then you have to send a notice out. Okay, you have to advertise in the paper, and that's done annually. It's not done on a application basis.
So then on the other side of this, I get it, okay, and I want everybody to think about it. Then what we're really talking about is a guy that owns the land and he wants to just move around the ERCs on his land that he owns. What he does with it subsequently has nothing to do with anything. Not his problem.
I think it is,
Why?
because isn't it true, when he submits plans or whatever, then it has to go to engineering for review, after the county, engineering for
But he
review.
still owns it until it transfers.
But what if he needed more,
Then he
Then he
buys.
buys
Then he
it.
has to buy it.
if they're available?
They're available. And if they're not, it's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, if not, he's
But,
going to
I mean-
modify his plan to meet those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I said, why don't you just sell your ERCs to him? And I understand it's a lot easier to think he can dump them on us. I get it. It wasn't that easy. Why don't you just sell them, okay? Why don't you just, and then it's we don't want them. It's a loss to the people at 30 grand. We don't want them. So he did shift gears. I don't know how he did it, but he sold the land supposedly, or is going to somebody else. He's telling us, and it doesn't matter. If he sells the land, we don't lose the 30 grand for the people. If he doesn't sell it, we don't lose the 30 grand for the people. I looked him up this week. He's already paid this year's taxes to save the 4%. Anybody would do the same thing, but he's paid already. So we're not losing the 30 grand for the people. Okay. I think nobody sitting here likes the way he went about it. Nobody sitting from the beginning with Joe Levy. Nobody likes the sudden death overtimes. Nobody likes getting informed of things the night before the meeting. That's why we're having this meeting today. So I don't like the way that they've been treating you, to be honest with you. I don't like it. And that's going to end.
Thank you.
I don't like it. And nobody should be treated that way. That's an employee of ours, an associate of ours, a district manager should not. And that ends here, as far as I'm concerned. Having said that, on his behalf, I think that the fair thing to do for him is to do the transfer once what he needs is satisfied. Now, there's always been a rush. There's no rush. And if he's got a closing, okay, then get the two minor things we need. They're not a big deal. And provide them. I say we make the approval based on his needs being satisfied. It's clerical stuff and it protects us, because she's right. I sure as hell don't want to set a precedent. And you want to know what? Waiving that 30 grand would have done it. And with what we're looking at over the next year with this place after this sale, we're looking in the jaws of hell. And if we change things now, we're going to be on the cross. I'm telling you right now.
And it sounds like the sticking point right now, what Mr. Kish has raised, is the affidavit.
Right.
If you waive that now, when we get to the rules meeting, I would suggest that rule be changed to take it out totally.
Yeah, and what the board can, what the board can, again, if somebody may not be coming in between now and the rule change, but if somebody happens to come in the door, they would ask for the same thing. I would suggest that the board's inclined to approve the utility ERC transfers, and the rule says, and it sounds like there's no compelling reason not to, that the board require an owner's affidavit.
Yeah.
And I can prepare an owner's affidavit for him to sign that says the same thing, because my concern is it's an inducement to the district saying there's nobody else that's going to be affected. I don't want a third party saying, hey, I had a second mortgage on the property, okay, and I didn't approve this transfer.
Right.
So I would suggest an affidavit from the LLC, its authorized agent, that they have the authority to sign, they have the authority to make the application, and all the representations that the attorney's affidavit would have. I think that's a critical inducement. So I can prepare that affidavit, and that Mr. Town Holmes would also have to pay attorneys and engineering fees associated with this. That's in the rules. And deny it as to the O&M ERC, because that's not available.
But that's gonna, the O&Ms are gonna change when we get.
We don't know.
Well, they're gonna- Yeah, but
Potentially
change
I
anyway.
would not be
So-
surprised.
Right, so, yeah, no, I'm sure they're gonna change, because they haven't been touched in 30 years, so.
The best example I can give the board members is this. Just yesterday, one of my neighbors said, oh my God, we're rewriting our mortgage on a condo. Oh my God, the paperwork they want is 10 times worse than a year ago. Okay, well, there's a reason for every one of those pieces of paperwork. We want to close this file. I don't ever want to visit this thing again. So I think we should approve it. I think we should let him do it, but I think he needs to satisfy what he needs, and it's based on that. That's how I see it. I don't know everybody else.
I think he needs direction as far as the attorney's affidavit. Now, if you can get the
No,
affidavit
he just said that.
satisfied,
Yeah.
that's fine.
In other words, if the board, I'm comfortable that if the board were to make a motion to approve the utility ERCs, deny the O&M ERCs, and the approval of the utility ERC transfer as requested is contingent upon the execution of an owner's affidavit that I prepare, using the sort of same criteria, but some additional statements in there that are in the rules, and payment of the engineering and attorney's fees.
Okay,
Now,
what he said.
and
So
what the
moved.
rules- Okay,
No, go ahead.
but what the rules state is the review fees too.
Okay,
Engineering and attorney's.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I just want that to be clear.
Right.
So
Which he
you
said,
guys-
and
Which I
he
don't-
moved, second.
Okay, so it's been,
this is
you'll
gonna
give me
land
that
on you, you get
language?
all this?
Can you repeat it?
You just send it to me by email. So
Well,
I
yeah,
get
no,
it right.
for the record, it'll be the board approves the utility ERC transfers as requested, and for the record, and Dave, if I make a mistake, because there's so many change documents flying around, that the utility transfer, ERC transfer would be to transfer eight utility ERCs from 289 Case Track Drive, Track A to 289 Case Drive, Track B. And that's what the board would approve. The board would deny transferring any O&M ERCs, and the approval of the transfer is contingent upon Tonka Homes LLC and their authorized agent signing an owner's affidavit prepared by me in a form satisfactory to me, and the Tonka Homes LLC paying all engineering and attorney review fees.
Yeah, one question. What about that mortgage affidavit?
Yes, thank you. And have the mortgage holder sign a requisite document with it.
Which is a formality.
But again,
Yeah, but it
And
needs
the
to be.
witnesses on
Yes.
the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
so with the owner's affidavit would say, with the authorized owners, and that would take care of me from the standpoint of the application.
Yeah.
But, and there was a second page of the application actually was witness notarized, it was called a different document. But have the mortgage holder sign a document that the witness is notarized.
And I think that's fair. And out of fairness, if you look in the phone book, there's 10 million attorneys of all various flavors in Naples, Florida. The fact that he can't get one, not buying
I
that.
know, the only other one I got here.
Right. I bet I can
Sure,
get one
waiving
sitting
that
here.
right. They're that requirement.
In substituting,
Because
if I have the
I'm
homeowner's
approving
affidavit.
the
substitute.
affidavit prepared by our lawyer.
Because that's an inducement.
She's representing us.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I like it.
So is that your motion, Mr. Lusher?
Yes.
Yes, I accept that as the motion.
And
Okay.
I second
Yeah,
it.
okay.
And all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Aye.
Now, can I just make one statement? The previous board, really, you've got a good plan here for utility ERCs. Now, if I would find any fault in previous boards, it was that the O&M was never presented or addressed. It just was carried on from what was established.
And that's not unusual. You're not, I mean, I know.
No, that's not unusual.
Had them in effect since 88. Okay.
But Cal, if we had a good plan, this has never come up before, and if you really think about it, we're almost at build out. It's probably never going to come out again. It was a unique situation because it's an individual who bought it, and the money means a lot more to the individual.
But remember, when we first did the workshop just a month, 2 months ago, this came up and the utility ERCs was not recommended to be changed.
Right.
Right.
Okay for that.
Right.
They're being presented as they currently exist. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do with the attorney's affidavit, that provision, but
We might change that to owner's affidavit.
Yeah.
Again, it's not, by the way, it's not unusual to have an attorney's affidavit for transactions. By way of example, when utility facilities are conveyed to local government, they require the owner's affidavit. I'm the owner of this pipe, I own the land, I'm owner of the easement, underlying land where the easement is, and the attorney's affidavit saying, yeah, all that is true, and I've checked the title, and the only people of interest are so and so. So that's not unusual to have. I mean, that happens all the time.
But let me ask you a question that we keep missing.
okay.
Why did the ERCs change on lot 13? Because I'm curious too.
What do you mean by change? Well,
There were, when Sam Marchand, her husband
No,
owned it.
never
there
mind the
was
name.
300.
When did they
Well,
change?
that's what I'm telling you. When they owned it, there were ERCs attached to the trailer park. She sold it to Bruce Holochek for 10 million bucks.
Mhm.
There were ERCs attached to it. He was putting in a luxury RV park. Okay. When we took it over,
Right,
they vanished.
right. We're a government
They
entity.
became,
But
they
so what?
became part of the assets of the district.
Yeah,
But why wouldn't they stay with the land? That's my only question.
Well, you can make that decision later on.
yeah, when you got a sale.
Get a sale, whether you assign, well, all the RCs back on that property,
Or
or
you
whether
wait
it's
for
just a
their
partial
plans.
amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to address. Exactly what you said.
I think I have an answer for you.
Wait,
I think I
let
know
me
where you're
ask-
going,
let me-
because you did it in writing.
Let me say that we have nothing that exists on vacant land, okay? In order to sell that property, we have to have ERC, some kind of formula for that vacant land. So when they buy it,
We do.
you couldn't produce it. You said
Right
right
now,
here.
it stands at what it was.
On that vacant land, when they get ready to develop it, they'll come in with a site plan.
No, get back, stop with the site plan and all that crap. I'm talking about vacant land right now. When they buy that property, okay,
Mhm.
when you gonna charge them ERCs on it?
When they buy it,
Oh, what are you gonna charge them?
closing. I
Oh,
would
no,
say
don't stop. What are you gonna charge them?
probably what the ERCs were on there.
Oh, so you're gonna, right off the bat, when we sell that property, you're gonna charge them
What happened
$200,000 a year?
prior to us owning it? Those ERCs stayed with the property.
You just said they didn't.
They didn't because
When we owned it, they didn't. That's when they just moved over to us.
Oh, okay, so, but you're gonna
But prior
reassign
to
them.
that-
You're gonna reassign them all by yourself. You're gonna reassign them to the, we're gonna make a decision. Oh, the government's spoken. There's, now there's 160 ERCs on that property, and you're gonna pay us $200,000 a year before you stick a shovel in the ground. Nobody's gonna buy it.
No,
That's not.
it's gonna be different
I
than
think the
that.
board's got the ability to do certain
Right.
things with that property.
Okay, but that's what I wanna get at. There should be something from the very beginning. You guys don't understand.
I know, we understand. They're going to, they're not going to buy that land speculatively. They're going
But that's
to.
what we did to Siemens. That's what we did to Jones.
Well,
No, they had-
we
No,
did-
no.
that Seaman had.
Oh,
Yeah. No, they told us how many they
Yeah,
needed,
they did.
and we were gonna custom make it. Let me give you a good
we never got
example.
that far.
Well, because they buckled.
Because they thought we were gonna hit them with it up front.
No, that's not how you do
They
business.
knew that wasn't true.
Okay.
That's not how you do business. They had the opportunity to custom do it and not inherit any. That's my thing. Take a look at Orchid Cove. Orchid Cove is exactly like this. The CID, I believe, owned the land that was here. There was nothing here. This lake wasn't here. They dredged that up to elevate this land. When Power Corp bought it, they went to the CID board and they said, okay, this is what we want to build. You had this question. This is what we want to build. And the CID said, okay, we're going to give you this many ERCs tailor-made to your facility. They said, okay, poof, and here's Orchid Cove. The same exact thing is going to happen with this. We're gonna go, Zeman could have come to us and did, and they told us 300 unit, 40 by 80 foot slabs, plus buildings, 120 ERCs for the slabs, and plus the buildings, the pool, the outbuildings. We didn't get any further because they choked.
Yeah.
But had they gone further, they would have had the unique ability, unlike privately owned, to have a custom ERC plan.
But who is gonna put down money, give you the plan, okay? Give you the plan that they're gonna have.
Yeah.
Who's gonna put down money that's non-refundable and they don't know exactly what their costs are from the very
Oh, they
beginning?
wouldn't, it
Well,
wouldn't have,
remember-
that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but remember, I think it was Sam who came up to Steve,
Yeah.
build one unit and we'll relieve you of 3 ERCs.
No,
So
I'm
you
talking
work,
about
you
this.
work with the builder.
No, I'm talking about this property back here.
That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
When they, if you looked at it, they had due diligence. Every one of these agreements we've been
Mhm.
presented with, as he put it, is lopsided. They were all in the developer's side. And the reason why is we're ill-equipped to deal with big cat developers. That's why we now have a broker. But when they did their due diligence, I'll give you the best one, Scott Prepper. He was going to give us a plan, the most recent one, showed us a beautiful plan that I really liked, except there were too many units, but I liked it. But then he sent an email to him 2 days later, which was suspect to me. And it said, well, it's not going to be exactly like this, and we're going to make some changes. Oh, okay, where's the other walnut? And then he wanted a year due diligence on 20 grand.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I'll do that deal. I mean, are you kidding? That's the problems. But to your point, this is different than that. You know where you're going to see it? When the hotel transfers and they want to put up buildings, that's where you're going to see it, because there aren't enough ERCs over there. And there's only 266 ERCs left in the bucket. And there is going to be a horse race.
Yeah.
And that was already sold. Nobody in this room ever thought that was going to sell. Nobody did. But it sold, or it's about to, for crazy money. They're not just going to leave open fields there. And when that one comes to us, oh,
Does the 266 include what we,
it's everything.
so
Yeah,
what
it's
was
everything.
on?
It's
Yeah.
everything. The bucket is empty.
But is that our max?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
266.
And you can't add to it.
That's our max.
1,032 on that schedule we have.
Because I thought we were only at 50%
We're
capacity.
only using them.
Using,
That's
Using,
only what the
but
plan's
that's
saying.
not what the
yeah,
capacity
that's
is.
what we're using. Once they build, we use more of it.
But we have 700, how many ERCs out there now that we're actually
It's
collecting?
on that list you had.
Part of it's because of seasonal flow, but if everybody
Yeah.
showed up on a given day, we would see that.
Right. But the thing is,
No,
Yeah,
wait
to
a
be
minute,
prepared for
what do you mean? Right now, if we have you're talking 200 versus 700, so you're
The-
30% is still available.
The plant capacity is, what's available as far as plant capacity is based upon the number of ERCs that are sold and what's remaining. What the flows through the plant are 2 different things, because on a given day, do we have 100% of the people here in the community?
Well,
Full use.
February,
Full use.
you get full use.
And that's when the numbers start creeping up again.
Yeah.
but that's kind of how you have to look at it.
It's the only way to look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You gotta go by max capacity.
You can't go by gallons.
So at max capacity, when we're in February, say we're at max capacity at that time, then we're at 70% of
Yeah,
the capacity.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
Right.
Okay.
that's
Right now
considering,
we're 50, but
Right.
then
No,
we'll
but we'll see it creep up. And then,
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, so, but we would be set, okay, so it's not like we could say that
no,
We can't
it
exceed.
was at 50% even if we have 700 using them all at once. So it's calculated based on, but is that calculated based on the newest numbers after we upgraded or the original plan? Because didn't we upgrade and then spend $20 million on an upgrade?
no.
The new plan.
Well,
It was
basically,
5 million for
upgrade,
water.
upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the current capacity
Yeah.
of the facilities are.
And you might not, I mean, in February, you might not hit 70%. You might.
Well, no, that was,
But you gotta go
You have to be
on
Yeah.
engineering,
prepared for it.
proven engineering criteria.
I'm not worried about running out of water. I just wanted to know, understand that if,
So you
that
need
there
to
was,
be worried about running out of water
Yeah.
or not being able
Well, no,
to treat the water that you're using.
I mean,
You can't oversell
Right.
that plan.
And, you know, it's based upon a max thing. And you
Yeah.
don't encounter too many of those ever.
but that's what I meant. It's already figured on that. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I want to do.
But if we're talking about, according to them, 94 new 2-bed, 2-bath condos, or 153 1-bath hotel rooms. Those aren't full ERCs, but it's 0.8 or 0.4, is that what it is?
Right.
And that's without anything else.
Yeah, but when it tallies up to the total
Right.
ERCs, we can't exceed
The
it.
bed breaks. So then what happens to the land?
There's not enough
There
ERCs.
won't be enough
And
to
I'm
do
the DRCs
certain things.
for a
Maybe a big
for-
part.
And when the
There's not enough ERCs for an RV park, but you could be residential or something.
And when the county sends us a request for sewer availability on that building permit, Dave is gonna tell me, and I'm gonna tell the county that we don't have service available. And a good example of that's already happened with Lake Lincoln here.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Right here.
They wanted to build more units and they didn't have enough ERCs.
And nobody was willing to sell them to
We
them.
wouldn't, and nobody would sell them to them, and we wouldn't issue and there was plenty of capacity in the plant. But it was all taken up.
Well,
It was all accounted for.
this land all out here is all coming up, right?
It is, this land is already, you can buy it right now today. The land over here, October 3rd comes up.
Okay, so what are we doing with ERCs on that?
They're attached, but the
Well,
county owns them.
Oh, for the county?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Tony would have to answer that, but I'm not sure there are any ERCs out
Yeah, if there were in the county.
They didn't have enough, I
they
thought.
would
But wouldn't they have
there.
had to buy the
They're part of that
ERCs?
266. The
No,
county-
but wouldn't Higgs have had to buy those ERCs when he developed Orchid Cove? He just didn't finish the build out.
Right,
And the pipes are there.
and he didn't have the ERCs, and we wouldn't give him a letter of availability.
How, I'm not challenging you. I'm just trying to understand. How, if he came to us, you, or them, with a plan, and I need this many ERCs to build out Orchid Cove, and he was given that many ERCs to build out Orchid Cove, he just defaulted and didn't build out Orchid Cove, the ERC should still be there.
But he never had enough ERCs.
He didn't have enough to complete it.
To build out.
How can he not have enough? I'm not challenging you.
Mhm.
How can he not have enough if he went to that CID board with a plan and I need this many bathrooms, this many units, this many condos, 145, and
Well,
a clubhouse and a pool? How can he not have enough
he had
ERCs?
enough for that. It was for the expansion.
That he did.
But that's not expansion. That was part of the plan.
not
Phase
what was
3 is,
submitted. Lake Lincoln was never.
Lake Lincoln is what we call phase 3, right? A
Okay.
small piece.
Well,
That's
he
over there.
submitted for that.
Yeah.
And was denied because
Ah.
there wasn't enough ERCs left on that parcel.
Then Lake Huron is these end of the build, that's these vacant lots on the lake. That's phase 2. So what that's why he wanted to give Lake, whatever it is, to the original board of directors. He was gonna give it to him because it was really just parkland.
Yeah.
Right.
And they didn't want it because of the taxes.
Mhm.
How stupid was that?
And the assessments are still on that. I mean, we assess them, but
But they could turn it to open space.
yeah, that's why they're in for.
But I thought there were 2 1.8s on that.
I'd have to look at the.
Two 1.8s, but
Is that the ERCs assigned to?
It's,
What-
Lake Huron,
20, one's 20.
no, Lake Lincoln is 1.8. And that's for the whole parcel.
mhm.
Right.
And the other one I'm talking about, Lake Huron, the lakefronts, are 21.6. Now, is that enough? Those have to be identical buildings. So is that enough for 28 condos with 2 bathrooms each? That's
1.8.
24,
No.
21.6. It's not enough.
No.
And that's what they got.
Yeah, they didn't have enough to finish out the project, so they've been sitting there.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they've been sitting
Well,
there.
even like Steve right now, he has 2. If he changes his plans and needs 3, that's when you run into.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing you might want to do during rules and direction for staff is the point that Mr. Kish is making regarding vacant land. Now, you should always have to pay for the availability. So we could create a standby
Right.
based on acreage or based on whatever, that David would come up with as far as a recommendation, what he sees in other communities or whatever. And then, because that sewer system is there and everyone that owns property should pay for it.
Yeah.
The ability to use that service in the future.
Mhm.
That's what they would pay for versus
You know what's funny?
ongoing costs.
What goes around comes around. Back then, ERCs weren't available, they were being held, they were being coveted, and nobody would sell them. And they were holding out for tall dollar.
Yeah.
Then we went into a lull war. Who the hell wants to stay at Port of the Islands? Now, all of a sudden, they found gold in them our hills, and we're at a deficit.
Sure.
And it's gonna hit. We're at a deficit.
And Ronald mentioned in his history,
Yeah.
there is
It's
there was
obvious.
a study that I don't know if it was a methodology, but it was basically identifying there was a firm from Orlando that wanted to buy everything. It was
Yeah.
like 50,000,
Yeah,
and nobody wanted to sell
yeah, they were holding them.
them.
Right.
Because they had a perceived value.
Mhm.
Then that went away with the market crash and everything, but now it's back.
Right.
Obviously, it's back.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee anything ever stays the same.
No, of course
You
not.
can't make that assumption.
That's what markets are.
Mhm.
Okay, so now you're starting to scare me.
We want those ERCs back. You can't sell
No,
them.
you're starting to scare me because I didn't know what was going on with that hotel over there. If
Oh,
any-
yeah,
if
closed,
any-
no.
No, I know it's sold, but I didn't know what was
It's
planned.
closing
Oh,
the
yeah.
15th now. They pushed it back. But it's done.
Okay,
Mhm.
so say that goes through.
Right.
And then they submit a plan.
Mhm.
And somebody buys this when they submit a plan.
Good question.
Who's gonna lose?
Whoever gives us the money
First
first
come,
wins.
first
Yeah,
served.
but somebody's, I
First
mean,
come, first served.
That's right.
but we only have so many ERCs, we're gonna max out, doesn't matter how we max out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're making me think that the advantage, if this hotel goes through, depending on what their plan is, if that goes through, we keep that land and put the well field there and save ourselves $2 million.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Everybody would be happy.
Everybody be happy.
I think.
Right, you know what I mean? I don't know.
But see, that's an example. Change happens.
Right.
We would,
I know, but see,
No.
but we're gonna be maxed out, we'll be
Right.
sharing the wealth around here, everything will be
Exactly
good,
right.
and then you'll still have that.
that's exactly right.
Well, and you could sell a couple smaller lots there.
Yeah.
In other words, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do some additional subdivision.
But
even with the well field there, even if we put the well field
Yeah,
there.
you got a distance that you've got to be maintained, but.
Ron said if they put a well field there, one of those drainage wells fields, A, would save us $1 million right up front from running a new line from the wellheads. There would be more water, but I tell you where I was sitting. It would have to be made a water district. So nothing could ever be built on the land.
You'd have to have some kind of easement over the
Right.
top of it. that would-
And Ron is the one who said that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of happy faces.
But you may be able to do things like passive type activities over the top of it. And there may be some area that might be available to, again, sell some lots and bigger parcels from.
And, in these transfers of O&Ms, once this new methodology for the O&Ms comes out, that means you're just gonna assign it. If we accept the methodology for the
Sure.
O&Ms, it'll just be automatic.
Well, there should be a formula possibly.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be a formula, yeah.
But not utility.
But whether we transfer O&Ms or don't transfer O&Ms, it's all gonna change anyway.
Doesn't
So,
change here.
Yeah.
But Russ, put yourself in these shoes. The word is, the rumor is, the listing price is the hotel in 6 acres, 4.85 million. We don't know if it's gonna close at that, but that is what it's listed at. That's what the rumor is. Now, please don't take this offensively. We have burned through a year dealing with developers who, in my mind, were being unscrupulous. We've wasted a year of the hottest market on earth by no fault of our own. We've burned through a year in time. But these guys have 4.8 million skin in the game. So who do you think is going to need those ERCs first? It ain't going to be us.
Well, that's why I said, we're gonna be using- why are we even listening?
But if we get the money, doesn't matter who has it.
And
But
that's
all of
why,
these guys-
Shoe Cart was buying.
That's exactly why.
Right.
And he's paid every year on 30 unneeded
Right.
ERCs.
Kelly, you want to know what else? The best example were tax certificates. Okay? These 7 buildings, 28 condos, every single year for 5 years in May, private individuals were paying the taxes on these phantom
Yeah,
units
that's how it works.
until they got off the opium. They said, oh my God, they're not going to build this thing out. And they were doing it as an investment because they were expecting 18% on their money. My wife and I were at the last court thing for the old hotel back there, and there was nobody there. And there was one lady sitting there, and she goes, I bought 6 of those goddamn things. And they're what? And she goes, I'm going to lose all of them. Yeah.
Well, you buy it with the
So they
concept
had a
that
value.
you're going to pay their taxes.
Sure.
And in return, you're going to get interest on
Sure.
the money. But if the owner doesn't pay you and 5 years goes by,
Right.
it goes up for sale. But it's a gamble.
But
It's
people
an
saw a
investment.
value in them, is my point.
Yeah, they thought they would sell.
Markets come and go. Right now, it's come, it's here.
Well, and another example is the dormant work.
Excellent
When they
example.
first came in, they didn't have enough ERCs. They had 60 ERCs. They submitted the plans, Ron went through them, and he identified they needed 16 or 17, and we wouldn't issue the letter. And the only option they had was to be able to buy some unused ERCs, and they weren't willing to do that.
They actually approached the board to buy the ERCs
Yep.
when both of those went down. I remember that.
Well, what happened with that? Because I get a thing here that says they bought sufficient capacity for building under renovation and $50,000. They paid us $50,000 to the CID upon execution of the agreement. They ended up with 7.4. It still says 4.8 there. And then it says the additional ERC shall not be subject to assessment until such time as a certificate of letter or a letter of capacity related to that ERC has been issued.
That's when they were looking to buy it. I don't think that ever
They
transferred.
never bought.
They never bought those
No.
50,000?
No, because they were trying to decide what the use was. And they were going to put in 400 square foot motel room efficiency units, 3 buildings for employees of the state parks and stuff, was what they said. It was really going to be for whoever was going to buy the hotel space, whatever that was going to be. When that didn't materialize with the Union Road Partners or whoever it was, that's when that seized up.
Okay.
Okay, so just one more thing, just getting back to these vacant land ERCs though. So is something going to change here in the future with that? Are we doing anything with that? I mean,
For utilities,
yes, ERC.
right now, the board hasn't given us direction to make any changes to that. If the board would like to have, you've got a good process now.
Everything's good except for the
Okay,
vacant land.
then tell David to come up with a standby classification that we could assign it based on acreage or something else.
Yeah, because we gotta have something.
But then what happens if you do that and the activity is over here and they require more ERCs? Do you say no to them? When it's
No,
actually
we don't
happening?
say no to the ERCs. If they buy the ERCs, they buy the ERCs. I'm just talking about,
And you don't have to limit O&M ERCs.
Mhm.
That's just a way to pay for your fixed cost, your
Yeah,
cost.
but he's talking about utility.
I just want to
ERCs.
say,
As to utilities going to do that, Remember now you would have the process, try to adopt a revised rule by February. If you add another layer of work to that, I don't think what that does this time.
Yeah, and it might change. Maybe somebody's got 20 ERCs on a vacant property and David comes back and says, you know, that Joey need to three or
I'm
four.
not talking about people that have already purchased ERCs and stuff like that, like the extra ones that they purchased. I'm mainly concerned about that.
Parcel 13,
Yeah.
or district-owned properties.
Whatever, however you want to do it. I mean,
I think it's all inclusive. It's any parcels and, but make it board approval.
yeah, because I don't want to see this statement. It doesn't exist. You know what I mean? When we ask for something that's not acceptable.
I agree. Doesn't exist.
I know, but
It needs to
for
exist.
30 years, man, it's got something that exists.
It does exist, I'm sorry. There was original allocation does exist. And that original allocation has been followed through. And the original allocation was utility and water, sewer, drainage, roads, everything.
Right.
And whether you agree or disagree, it does exist.
But that's not, maybe it's there, the process is there, but what I was asking him.
The rationale how you got there.
Yes, I wanted, like,
But
the
that's,
way.
he's working on that.
That's what we're working on now.
We follow what's
Right,
there
right.
now.
Well, but
Well, but it's
Doesn't
not
matter.
there, but we're almost talking about two different things.
Mhm.
Russ was asking for individual, Steve's property over there in parcel 13. Where is the worksheet that identified what they had? And that's not there.
I don't know if there's,
Yeah.
again, there was an allocation back in 1990.
Right.
And
But it was a general
No,
based on areas.
so it's parcels. They actually had parcel numbers. and roll
Parcels were
numbers.
assigned to
Yeah,
ERCs.
including these two tracks, A and B,
Yes.
at the time.
Mhm.
So there is, okay? And whether we agree or disagree as to what it should be, and it's maybe lost in the fog of time as to the rationale, but it's there. So that's why I disagree with saying there is nothing there. It's there. Whether we have, it's allocated because of this particular, it says, here's the use, here's the parcel, here's the ERCs.
Yeah.
And
And
that,
that's all we have is that resolution
and.
which is shared with everyone.
And subsequently, there was the 2010 resolution and the validation of the borrowing for the water and sewer utility line. That was validated by the court. So we do have that.
Yeah,
That was in 2010.
And
So
that
there's
was-
nothing, in my humble opinion.
that was utility though.
Right, we're talking utility ERCs. So
But the O&M was there in 90.
we're talking utilities.
Yeah, I think O&M's a
All
constant.
right, well, anyway, you
Yeah,
keep going.
we're good.
But
Yeah.
if there's anything that can be done, I mean, I just like, I don't know.
And talking about capacity, O&M, there is no capacity.
Right.
It's just the number of people or, equivalent residential credits
Right.
out there. It could be 5,000. The only thing that would limit that is the amount of sewer that's available, the sewer and water that's available for those units to be built. But there is no, you can use however, it's just how you split up that annual
There has to
cost.
be an
for-
owner, there has to be an
Right.
capacity.
No,
There is no
analysis is based
capacity.
upon the benefits of the property for the particular interest rate.
I'm not talking about the dollar amount, but the number of, it has to.
Not for O&M, there is.
Doesn't-
What does there have to be?
Because once you're maxed out, once you're built out, where are you gonna get more O&Ms?
No, you don't.
You don't need them. They're
You
You
fixed.
don't need them then.
That's what I said. It has to be, then it's got, it is a fixed number.
No.
O&M.
No.
Okay, but I would suggest we wait till Russ, as long as we.
Yeah, let's do it.
The old time, Okay,
Yeah.
because he can come up with a recommend, there is no large typical cap number that can be. And again, it all depends on how you make the determination of the benefit. It's based upon square footage for drainage purposes. Some places do that.
Yes.
Some places just say it's based upon trip generation. for
Okay, so
roads.
there's other evaluations than
Correct,
just
other factors,
residents.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's multi-layered too, like you said, you may have so much O&M assigned to drainage, so much O&M assigned to transportation needs, because you might have a high density user that's gonna eat up more road trips versus land that they need.
And they would have more ERC.
That's typically multifamily has less transportation, that's other thing.
Yeah.
Single families are the highest trip generators.
Right.
Well, I was talking about commercial. generally.
Yeah.
You
So,
could have different.
but anyways, I think that's Russ's analysis.
Yeah, that's the type of detail that'll go into that.
All right.
At the end of the day, the last word is this. They're credits.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
They're credits.
Yeah, and Madam Chairman of the board, I didn't know we'd be going this long. I have another appointment I have to get to. Right around noon or so.
So,
I apologize.
What do we get clear up?
Okay.
The license
The
agreement.
license agreement.
And Dave has revised,
monument license agreement.
Dave has revised site plan, I guess you showed the
Yeah,
four on there, David?
Yeah, there's actually 4 signs there.
I had
And
three.
the original one just showed 3, but there's 4.
What page is that on?
Dave had it.
Oh, okay.
Let's see,
Right, David?
let's see if I got some.
No, it should be in the packet.
It's in the packet, but that one just shows 3. There's actually 4.
Yeah.
I'll pass it. Okay,
Here's some extra, here's some extra. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Oh, I
found
know, all
it.
the monuments.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, towards the rear.
Hang on, here's the revised one. Here's the revised one.
In the agenda packet.
Oh, oh, oh,
It was a small one.
These cells, it's gonna change.
All right, we have them.
right.
Yeah, right.
So the,
Yeah.
yeah, those monuments are not on our property.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's a license agreement, as Supervisor Kish mentioned, a new buyer may not want them all. So it's just made up.
Oh, this is excellent.
And so with the board's consideration of revising the agreement to reflect the 4 entry features, the agreement is would be both in the text and on the exhibit, I believe. Recommend the, and it had to be changed from November since it's only dated November. Page 39 of the agenda packet. We recommend this for approval.
Can I ask one question? We're asking for a license to repair and like that,
The license would allow them to maintain, then we can repair them, but
but not an easement.
we can ask for an easement, but we're not.
Which is better?
Well, an easement is because then it's an interest in the land.
I think we need to have an easement.
He, at the meeting, he
Did not want to do
refused.
one.
Yeah,
So if, to be able to maintain this sounds like it's the best
need the agreement.
option you're gonna
And,
have.
and realistically, when he sells, the new owner may not want them, may say, take them down.
That's why we wanted the easement.
Yeah, but
Right,
But that's probably why he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean,
Something is
assuming he
better than
sells it,
nothing.
and assuming you have a site plan, and assuming we can go talk to the new owner, saying this would give us a site.
Right. I agree.
That's where the board is.
I'd like to put forward a motion to sign this agreement.
Also, 10-foot long.
That was, I thought, the signs.
The major
Monuments on Page Drive.
Small ones on each side.
Okay.
Is that a motion, Madam Chair?
That's a motion. I put forward a motion to sign this agreement.
Agreed to this?
I'm sorry?
Has he agreed to this, Mr.?
Isn't he submitting this?
He hasn't, I drafted this, I've not heard any objection. He talked about getting some compensation or consideration, but.
We better find out.
No, I had, Rick Taylor put that email where he said he wanted some consideration for
Right.
assessment credits. And so I suggested the board's answer to that would be no. So the board can still approve this as is,
Right.
no additional consideration and revise.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're doing. Approve it
Yeah,
as it is, no consideration.
No additional consideration.
Who made the
Additional
motion?
consideration. Carry on.
Oh. And
Do
who
we have a
seconded?
second?
Lashir?
Did he?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I seconded.
Some guy who said.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so you prepared this? I mean, if he's gonna knock them down, I just don't understand why we would put any more money into it. I mean.
that comes next.
You don't know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
If it
that'll be your
happens.
next agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All
Just
right,
give,
I misunderstood.
assuming it goes forward and gives you the opportunity to present it to him to sign. If he says no, then you're
Right.
where you are today.
Gotcha.
If he says yes, you sign it. You know, it's only gonna be for 3
But we
months.
did this because we found
Still
out it's
make a
not on
decision.
our land.
Gotcha. Okay,
So the motion's out there.
okay,
to-
and it's seconded, so call for. a
All in
vote.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh,
The other thing we had was the Land Quest listing agreement, and you all had a copy of that sent to you electronically.
Yeah.
That can be settled real quick with a simple motion.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. If you saw, I've wrote in the margins of comments, because there's some board decisions I would suggest.
Absolutely.
The original date for the beginning was like, it was November 19th. We have to change that, obviously.
Yeah.
It's terminating on October 2022. My question was, does the board want 6 months or they want the full year?
I say 6 months.
6 months.
Okay, so
That'll be the
that's the
season.
consensus of the board, okay?
Yeah.
Next on page 2, compensation, 6%, is that acceptable to the board?
That's fine.
Okay.
I have one thing. I don't want to funnel it through the district management office. Once a month, I want one of them here so that we can have a progress
One of
report
the,
right here. And if they don't want to do that, fire them.
So LQ rep, once a month?
That's my opinion. I'm not speaking for the board.
Uh,
I think they,
personally or,
yes, personally.
Okay.
I want them here to tell us what they're accomplishing.
I think they should be.
Yeah?
I think that's good, but I also think we shouldn't have to sit through this meeting.
No, but we can talk, they can do it right away.
Put them on the agenda early. Put them on the agenda early.
We can put them on right after the pledge of allegiance.
That works.
Then it'll be around noon.
Praise the
I
Lord.
don't think it is. But I really do want them in front of us, and I just want to be able to ask them questions. Listen, one of the, I don't know what you think about it. Obviously, we don't need them to get us 2 million, 2.5 million. We've had people throwing that money at us, unscrupulous or tricky, or whatever you want to call it, or not, without advertising, without marketing. I'm expecting more than that, okay? Because we've had people offering us 2 million with no commission. So I'm looking at 5 or 6 million.
Well, I guess then the question would be, and this is where, that the broker's only entitled to a commission for transactions that net the district over 2 point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but,
I
right?
like that.
What the hell do we need them for?
I like that.
Yeah,
Okay, so only entitled,
I don't need to.
I do, you never know.
Well, if they do their-
Not if this goes through.
if they do their homework and
This
they
is
see
wrong.
that there's
It
only
closes
266
for
left. and they're
sales
making-
price of 2.5.
Yeah, and above.
Yeah, no.
Now, let me ask you this. Would the board be willing to put a bogey in there? 7% for anything they bring us over 5 million with a 1-year close.
Well, it doesn't cost us anything.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Okay, so that's in addition to what we just talked about.
Well, but I'm just speaking for me. I'm all for giving them 7%,
I like incentive.
7% with a 1-year close. If they bring us over 5 million and we accept it.
I think that's a great idea, right?
Yeah, it is.
I like it.
I've got a question for the engineer. If we run out of ERCs, okay,
Mhm.
utilities, could anybody build on that and drill their own wells? Could they run on septic? They can't, right?
No,
No,
I think we have to approve since we're the utility provider.
Right. We'd have to make some kind of special provision
Okay.
for that.
All right, good, because
no, I think it's either gonna be in or out.
If we get to that point, there's other things we can look at, you know, do we want to look at another plant expansion per se, on down the line?
That'd be the future.
So I guess if I may just get back to
Could
the
we vote
commission.
on
Sure,
So they're only entitled to commission if closing for sales price of 2.5 million or above. right?
Net.
Correct. Secondly, we got the incentive 7% when you're closed, if
Mhm.
closed for sales price of 5 million.
Yeah.
Then on paragraph 8, there's a highlighted in green, it says, in the event the property is exchanged for the property of any other individual, owner agrees that broker may represent, receive commission from both owner and the other broker. Are you all okay with that? Owner and the other individual. No, it says exchange.
What does that mean?
I don't understand that.
In the event the property is exchanged for the property of any other, in other words, if there's another parcel out there that the buyer has.
Yeah.
And the buyer wants to exchange
Once you give it to
Oh,
us,
do they get paid?
by both.
by
The
both.
owner agrees that broker may represent, receive commissions from both owner and the other individual or entity.
I've never seen that happen. I don't think we'd be
I've
interested
seen
in
it
it.
happen.
So cross it out.
Yeah, I'd say get rid of it.
Okay.
I mean, do you think that's
What
I'm
section?
just talking for me.
That's section 8 at page 2 of 7. It's in the middle of paragraph section 8.
Page what?
Page 2 of
They can
7.
bring it to you, you
Yeah.
have to accept it.
Right,
What
we
do
have
you,
control.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, what do you think?
I've never seen that either.
Okay,
I would-
take it.
And I guess, what are the chances this board would agree to swap that for some other?
It's not gonna,
We don't want to. I agree. So I
Yeah, we're
think
not
that-
doing that.
I think we take that out. The
Yeah.
next question is, at the end of that same section 8, that talks about option. It says the commission payable in the event of a property exchange or transfer. We're not, I think we take out anything
That's the
dealing with
same
property
thing.
Yeah,
exchange.
anything with.
Okay, then it also has a sentence, also agrees that an option is granted. I assume you're going to report as finding the option.
No, we want a clean deal.
So we take all that out of section 8.
Give us all your money.
Okay, so property exchange and option contract is deleted in its entirety.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Next, I just asked him to provide us a proposed formal withdrawal agreement in the event of withdrawal.
Mhm.
Okay, it says owner's request, broker may agree to conditionally terminate the agreement. If broker agrees to a conditional termination, owner must sign a withdrawal agreement. Reimburse broker for all direct expenses reasonably incurred in marketing the property and pay a cancellation fee of 0. So I guess if we ask them to conditionally terminate the agreement, we have to sign a withdrawal agreement and we pay them for their costs that they've already expended.
No,
No,
Pardon?
we're not going
No.
to do anything.
they get nothing. That's the cost of doing business.
Okay, that comes out. So the board authorizes signing the chair to sign the contract for land request with the revision of the contract date. Change that the only entitled to commission closing occurred for sales price of 2.5 million or above. The 6% normal sales price of the commission is okay. An incentive of 7% commission with post 1 year if the sales price is 5 million or above.
And that's on the whole load, not just over about 5 million, 7% for the whole thing.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
That's a big incentive.
Yeah, so we get rid of the whole property exchange and option contract division, you don't want that, in conditional termination, delete that paragraph.
Let me ask you one question.
Yes,
If
sir.
we decide we want to fire them for any reason, and I don't want to, but if we decide we want to, there can't be any liability on us. It's just at will.
We need to say, okay.
Is that in there?
No.
You need it in there.
I think that's that conditional termination. That's what
But
it's
it's
saying.
not conditional, it's going to be irrelevant, unconditional.
Termination at will?
Yep.
How much notice?
Why would we want,
Well, you never know if they weren't performing
it's only
for
a
it.
6-month contract.
Yeah, but what if they're spinning their wheels for 3 of them?
Well, by the time they get started, you're gonna get
Yeah.
half that time's over.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also, when they want to enter into the contract.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Okay.
I would.
They're gonna do that.
Okay, so move what Tony said.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
Wait, don't we have to vote on it?
Yeah.
You made the motion.
I
You
made the motion.
You seconded it.
I'll second it.
all in favor? Aye. Sam?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, aye.
Double aye.
I had just one thing for notification. If anyone has a problem with it, we won't do it. It's under $1,000. But at the last meeting, somebody mentioned about the signage going off of Newport Cave, and we put something together. Dave looked at it and he made some recommendations where we would have painted stop on the pavement right there before you go on to 41, and then 3 stop signs.
Actually, 2 of the 3 exist already. We just would need to add 1 more.
Yeah.
So we gotta be a
They're
little
pretty
more-
faded and
Yeah,
We gotta be a little more specific. Under $1,000 is too big.
Now, those signs are actually FDOT signs. So they
Right.
would need to replace those and also add the supplemental one.
mhm.
And I think Chris has been in touch with, or will be in touch with somebody, his contact with
Yes.
FDOT.
Yes.
Will you put one in for $30?
These are, if you look at the signs, they're a little more specialized. They're breakaway type signs that meet all the federal requirements and so forth.
so the one that we want to add would have to come from the FDOT.
Yeah, they'd have to mount that there.
Okay.
Breakaway.
In case Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Breakaway, they can handle.
2 people have brought it up.
They
and
can
it's a
handle a
good
hurricane.
idea.
but I think, yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing.
No one has an objection.
no,
We'll
it
just do it as a
needs to
safety
be
issue.
done.
Yeah.
And interesting, there was a stop marking on the pavement previously, but somewhere it got painted out or faded out or.
Okay.
Well, either way, it's a safety issue. It's good, I think.
It is, yeah. Okay.
So this is the length of a regular meeting. I'm getting jet lag.
Yeah. Do we have any audience comments?
I
And
have one question. When you're talking about the new ERC methodology update, what are the old ones? Can we compare to see what the old methodology was compared to the new?
That should be in the report. I'm sure Russ will do that. So here's where we are today.
Yeah.
The old one, the original one.
Compare the two. the
I'm sure,
old
I'm
to the
sure,
new.
I'm sure that we can talk to Dr. Russ about it, say, make sure you put in your
Yeah.
report
Mhm.
what the current process is.
Yeah, and what
And
we'd like to
and what
change
issues
to.
you see
Well,
with it, or
but
what you
not necessarily just current, original.
Well,
Well,
I think the original is the current.
yeah,
Okay, but I just wanted to clarify, you're not doing the original.
Yeah,
If you have the original,
really
you do
changed.
this.
If the original's not the current, I wouldn't see, quite frankly,
Yeah.
the board any value in analyzing.
yeah.
I'd like to see both, just to see how it's compared and what the new is.
So what you're saying is, where would you see the original right now if you wanted to see it?
Yeah,
Go back to resolution 1990-03.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's be on the
There's
website.
the allocation is, I mean, that's the allocation that was used for the first capital projects, and that formula has been utilized ever since.
So then where would the average person go
Cal asked.
to see that?
Well, yeah, it's easier because it's not an ADA compliant
Uh-huh.
document. So if somebody sends me a request, I can,
Yeah,
And I think it would also be helpful, Cal, if you said
well,
also,
I think if there's going to be any changes to the ERC methodology, I think we all should be provided or should be posted somewhere.
well, if it requires an adjustment to individuals, then we would have to have a public hearing.
Right.
but again, what I'm saying is I would suggest that Russ will probably have all that in his report.
yeah,
And that's when the public can see it. If they want to see anything
Yeah.
now, you have the original resolution.
Uh-huh.
You also have your 2010 assessment report for the borrowing for the water and sewer, which talked about the utility ERC, not the O&M. But that's sort of the same process.
Sure. And we can, what Russ is going to provide, we can make that, convert that to HTML, which is
ADA compliant.
And
okay,
we
so
put it
you'll
on
have
the
access
website.
to it.
Okay, so we can say the request for the ERC original and the OM original.
We have to get, it'll be in the report. We're waiting for the report.
Okay, no, I'm saying
It's
how,
not-
how they came about. We can request a copy from you.
We're going to post the new report, which will talk about the old on the website. Or you can ask us to send it to you. It's not a problem.
Okay. I'll just send
Hey,
it.
Cal,
It's not ready yet. Yes.
Cal,
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there's a false sense going around the board that they think that we're changing the utility ERCs. They think that there's going to be a change in our, our expense, et cetera. And that's not true. I don't know why that's going around, but it is going around the board that we're changing the ERCs. We're changing the O&M ERC.
Right, yeah, it's just O&M. It's that per ERC, I think it's $395 per ERC for O&M. And that's for,
That's the cost today,
that's the cost today.
based upon the budget.
And I would suggest.
And the utility ERCs are 77% of our total non-ad valorem tax, so that's not changing.
right.
right, that's not changing.
It's just the O&M that's
That's not.
being updated.
That's correct.
You're really not going to.
But people think we're changing the utility ERCs, which we're not.
Ask him a question.
Yeah,
And what I would suggest, Carol, when you talk with Russ about the report, they come up with a new terminology for the O&M assessments. So we don't have this constant confusion when we use the term ERC. It's not, right now it's two buckets, but
But everybody thinks it's one.
correct.
I did.
So this is changing terminology, maybe EAUs or ERUs is a different word. The equivalent
I
residential
don't even
unit.
like ERC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's call it something else.
yes.
Yeah, let's just call them RC.
That's,
ERU is another
Yeah.
term that's
Yeah.
used, equivalent residential unit.
instead of credit, it'd be units.
Yeah.
Right.
Some are EAUs, some are.
Yeah, okay. All right, I skipped over one thing. Are there any supervisor requests?
Yes.
How did I know you had one?
Here in Orchid Cove, our lights are provided by the CID and they need to be cleaned. And we contacted, our board president contacted the LCEC and they said, don't do it on your own. So only the CID can do it, so.
You mean the poles,
The poles, they need to be.
not the lights?
Yeah, the poles are dirty.
We don't own the poles, though. do
Yes. No, we don't.
No,
They-
we don't own the
we
poles. They
lease
own
the-
Kel, do me a favor, send me an email on that. One of my retired partners, Craig, is a trustee of the, on the board of LCEC.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
there
you.
is,
So, he needs to earn his keep.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not doing anything for the firm much anymore, but
Yeah,
he's,
lawyers.
well, he's a retired
Yeah.
lawyer, so.
Yeah,
Retired
retired
lawyers,
lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, we took on the billing payment.
Right.
We didn't take on the maintenance.
We have, the CID has an agreement with,
To pay the
Orchid
bill.
Cove to pay the bill,
Right.
and they reimburse us for the upgrade from a typical pole that we pay for throughout the community to what they have, which is a decorator pole. So,
And that's when they put them in.
and so we bill them every month for that difference.
But I thought we did.
Electric bill. we
Just the
don't
electric
bill.
bill we're
Yeah.
paying for?
Yeah.
Well,
LCEC
but the electric bill is based so much per
Mhm.
light.
The usage, yeah.
When you have the standard, which is throughout the community, which I believe are concrete poles. And then you have the decorator poles that's in Orchid Cove.
Right, so the community wouldn't be paying for that. That's my.
They
point.
pay
So
for
they
up
do the
to,
upgrade.
they pay for the upgrade. So if it's $12 a month for a standard pole and they're paying 15, they pay $3 per pole.
But is that to own the
I'm
pole
talking
or
about
lease
the
the pole?
maintenance of the pole. If she wants them clean,
Well,
painted.
LCEC has to
Not
take care of
Yeah,
it.
it's their fault.
Okay, so if LCEC has responsibility for training and if
Mm-hmm.
not responsive,
Yeah.
please send me an email. I'll
Yeah.
forward it to Craig Woodward.
Thank you.
Said Craig is a board member. Your constituents are unhappy campers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please fix this.
Yeah.
Well, I'll use more time.
It just needs to be power washed.
Yeah, that's all.
And I
And
have,
hopefully I can get him to do it.
yeah,
Thank you.
I have one request. It looks like there's lights that light up the K's sign as you turn onto K's Drive. They're out.
Yes, somebody Chris, I think, just identified it.
Maybe
Is it in
they,
his report?
well, the guy who
He sent
maintained
it
noticed
to,
that. Maybe he
he
knows.
sent something to Robert.
Okay.
And that brings up another thing, signage. Chris, in his report, and he showed on K's Drive that little spot on the C got bigger, on that picture on the last one, on the field report.
Yeah.
But I want to draw attention to the sign on Union when you turn there. That sign is ugly. I mean, I don't know what we can do about it, or is that our job?
It is our.
It used to say hotel and gun range,
And now it just says gun.
and now they painted out the word hotel. Maybe if they just lettered it and put gun range to, in the middle, that's all.
Yeah, but there's like rust stain.
Yeah, it's faded, it
looks
needs painting.
terrible.
Yeah.
So
I
that's,
just, on the K's Drive sign, my neighbor maintains that.
This one,
The
yeah, I
CID
saw
doesn't
him
do
doing
that.
that.
Yeah, the CID doesn't.
yeah,
I guess so.
I mean, they
You're talking
have
about
somebody
this.
doing it.
I've talked, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that one.
looks awful.
It needs to be redone.
Yeah.
And just say gun range on it, the hotel's gone.
Lycan put those in, we can get a quote from Lycan.
Okay. It would just look better for this side.
But you don't have a nice neighbor like I do?
Well, it's not a wood sign.
Does he want to be our nice neighbor too?
Madam Chairman, I have an excuse.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't, you mentioned what now?
The lights for the sign.
Chairman,
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, on K's.
Yeah,
Madam excuse.
yes.
Do you want to ask him a question?
Just one question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
You're saying $395 per O&M DRC. Is that monthly, annually?
Annually.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there anything else? If not,
Wait.
we pass that.
Point of information, what assurance do we have that the state will continue to allow us to access their property and keep our wells there?
It's not the state. It's fact, well, I guess it is. It's Fakahatchee Strand. We have a legal easement.
How do we know that that will continue?
They can't not
They can't take it
continue.
away from you.
The easement is imperfect.
Yeah, they can't not continue
You
it.
get that when you put it out there
Right,
so that you can maintain it.
right. So we have a legal easement for the road, the power, and the wells.
How about the fact that we are sourcing a resource out of the state land? How do we know that it will allow us to continue to have water?
There's two things. One is the access and where our facilities are, that's an easement with the state.
Yeah.
The other part is what's called a water use permit, and that comes out of the South Florida Water Management District.
Right.
And that's subject to a regular renewal, and I believe we've got a 20-year permit and a 25-year permit. I think we're only like 10 years, 11 years into that permit.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest with you, years ago, they talked about, the CID talked about putting in a pump station over here and lines that are corrugated or some kind of pipes that run the length up to the gun club, and it gets the water from the canal. And it would, at the time, it was about 250,000 to put the whole thing in and shoot a simple main from just there to the water plant. It was really efficient. And at the time, Ron Benson, who will be at the next meeting, said that it would double at least our capacity. The existing pipe would be the backup, and it would save us, at the time, $1 million in putting in a new pipe 2 miles long.
But that wasn't his question.
No, I know it wasn't. I'm just telling you.
We answered the question.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with that?
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure that the permit is 25 years and the easement is for perpetuity, so it should be absolutely safe.
Sure.
Yeah, it is.
No problem whatsoever.
It is. So,
There has been a change in management there, and I don't know if it's the same way.
They're legally matters.
yeah.
Yeah, easements are easements.
Yeah.
Mhm.
South Florida Water Management District in 14 years may be a little different, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for now, we're okay. All right.
Motion
If there's
to-
nothing else, motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Sam?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
And I can ask you a quick question so I can respond back to these people.
Put these things back, right?
Yeah.